Hi, my name is Miranda, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Robin8, and this is our CTO and also our co-founder Hassan. So today we're going to talk about Influencer 3.0, a new wave of social media and blockchain. So once upon a time, there used to be a couple hundred media sources, but with the rise of social media like Facebook, Twitter, Weibo, or Tencent, everyone has a voice. Every one of us in here has a voice, is a brand, and is a media. So every one of us is connected. So if you think about it, like for example, for me, if like the typical person has about 200 to 500 fans. In my Facebook page, I have about 800 friends. And these are people who know me, that actually I went to school with, high school, college, law school, people I worked with, my neighbors, my friends. So when I say I like something, I like that hot pot restaurant. I like that pair of shoes. I like that lipstick. These people know me, that know I'm a real person. So even though my circle of friends, it's about about 800 people, when I say I like something, they pay attention. So every one of us is connected to a circle of friends. So Hassan, if you want to add something, let me know.
Sure will.
Okay, great. So what Robin8 does is we're every person's personal data scientist. So our goal is to profile every person down to a science, so we know everything about them in terms of what they like, what they're interested in. So we know them down to a science in terms of what brands they like, what hobbies they have, what brand, what cars they like, everything about them down to a science. And our goal is to act as their personal data scientist, where we give them all that information.
And another way of putting that is that if, this is primarily marketing and looking at it from an advertiser's point of view, our vision is that we are on the side of the consumers and helping them understand their own data and give them everything they need to empower themselves dealing with others.
So what we do is Robin8, we're basically an influencer search engine and social media marketing platforms powered big data and AI. So what does that mean, AI? So the way we do is we basically we're focused on China. So we profile over 30 social media platforms in China, where we actually profile 30 million people. So what we do is we take for each person, we take what they wrote today, yesterday, a month ago, 6 months ago. We take all that data, and we basically analyze each piece of content as if a person's reading it. So what we do is we teach the machines to read like you and I. So when you and I read something, it takes us a minute. But here, we teach the machines to read it. So in a minute, they can actually read thousands of articles, hundreds of thousands. And each article, they can read it consistently and they can actually scale that. So as a result, we can profile every person down to size and so we know everything about them. So what they like, what they don't like. We do semantic analysis and sentiment analysis. So what that means is, for example, versus keywords is if, for example, I say, hey, I got a new Apple Watch. It's fantastic. It's so beautiful. It's so fashionable. So if you're talking about keywords, you think Apple. Hey, that's a piece of fruit. But when we say semantically, if you look at the context of the language, we say, hey, it's actually not Apple. It's the brand Apple. They're talking about consumer electronic, a product, and they actually like this. So what Robin8 does is we teach the machines how to read like humans, like you and I. And what we do is basically using that, we're able to profile millions of people, basically know everything about them. So how do we do this? So we use, called natural language processing, NLP. So what that means is we teach the machines how to read like you and I, and based on the content, we're able to pull all this information in terms of their interests. Like, are they talking about real estate? Are they talking about fashion? Are they talking about makeup? Are they talking about Maserati? Or are they talking about Toyota? Are they talking about Kia? We don't, so we can basically, based on their content, pull their interests, as well as their personal information in terms of, is this a female? Is this a male? Their age? And we can also calculate their influence in terms of when they write something or post something, how many clicks, how many likes, how many shares they have to create this profile based on NLP. So Robin8, we're all about profiling, ranking, and matching based on big data and AI. So that means is for every person, our goal is to profile them down to a science, to know everything about them, rank them, and match them. So for brands that we work with, we basically help brands find the best people. And these people could be, for example, KOLs. In China, we call KOLs, it's key opinion leaders. In the US, we call them influencers. So for brands, we help them find the best people. Either they could be influencers, they could be up-and-comers, or they can be micro-influencers, or they can be consumers. Our goal is to find the best combination to give the best return on investment. And then for people like you and I, every one of us is a voice. Our role is basically act as their personal data scientists, where we share with them all their data about them. So as a KOL, which I would call a KOL, or we call it Wanghong. Wanghong means basically, if you were to do a direct translation, it means internet red. So, like in Korea, they call it power bloggers. In the US, we call them influencers. So these KOLs, if you think about them, they have the ability to basically create great content. They have the ability to share content to their circle of friends on social network. And they also have the ability to sell great products. For example, I say, hey, I like that pair of shoes. I like that bag. I like that dress. So each and every one of us has that ability to basically create, share, and sell. So with Robinate, what we do is we have an influencer search engine. Our specialty is basically, if you think about it, is we have a search engine, we have a bigger pool. So one of the things that we offer is basically we focus on the long tail, where we can help that brand find not just the big KOLs, but a lot of these up-and-comers that they normally wouldn't know about. And we can also help them find super fans. Super fans are basically, if you think about it, consumers that actually know their brands more than anyone. These are the actual consumers. So Robinate, using big data AI, we help brands find the best people. And our specialty is helping them identify these up-and-comers that people don't normally know about. So if you think of Robinate, you can think of us, traditionally when you think about KOLs, influencers, if you think about it, it's a small industry. They say, how many Kim Kardashians do we know? So if you think of it, it's a pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid is the celebrities. And then there's the middle layer, which is we call the Wanghongs, or those, up-and-comers. And then you have the bottom of the pyramid, which is we call the consumers. So what Robinate does is, we take the space where normally it's focused on these big influencers. Second, we take the space that's normally very manual. Because when you deal with a lot of these influencers, a lot of them actually have agents. It's a very manual process. You actually have to call them, you have to negotiate them a price, and then you have to go back and forth. So what Robinate does is basically, number one, we open this market up, where every one of us can actually participate in this influencer share economy. That's one. Two, what we do is we pretty much automate this whole process and provide end-to-end performance attribution. So we take a space where basically that's focused on the big influencers, and it's very manual. And then we open it up and we automate the whole process. So when you think about it, it's kind of like Google AdWords or Baidu AdWords, where it's totally automated and we provide end-to-end performance attribution. So what's some of the pain points of this industry? So some of the main pain points, I'm sure as you guys have heard about, is basically who owns this data? So I'm sure like me, I use Facebook, I use LinkedIn, I use Twitter, I use WeChat. So if you think about it, like all of us, we use Facebook. We share everything about our life every day. It turns out who our kids are, who our friends are, our family, what restaurants we like, where we go. Like basically, you look at my Facebook, everywhere I go to. I was in India last week, I'm in France this week, next week I'm in Singapore. So if you think about who owns this data. So a lot of us, we put all this personal information on social media. And there's a huge issue now, it's like who owns this data?
And another thing is, how much data do you have? How many people in this room know how much data they have on the internet? I got the exact number that I expected, 0.
So recently, like last year, I don't know if you guys heard, China's a big issue. It was actually all the papers where Weibo, I'm sure you guys heard of, is like the Twitter in China, and they had a big fight with Total, Top News. So these big two social giants, right? Basically, Total took some of the content from Weibo, and they put it on their site. And then Weibo's like, hey, what are you doing? Those are my content. That's our content. What are you doing taking our content and putting it on Total? And Total's like, that's not your data. Those are, great content shared by the people. That's not yours. And Weibo's like, no, that's ours. You see our tags on it. You see the Weibo tag on all those pictures? Those are Weibo data. But who actually owns that data? It's not Weibo. It's not Total. That data actually belongs to the owner, the person who created it. So we actually share a picture. That's our data. So there's a huge issue now in terms of who owns that data. We use these different social platforms like Facebook, Weibo, or WeChat. You share that information. Does that data still belong to you? Or does that data actually go to the social networks? There's a huge issue to who owns that data. But another issue, who owns the data? So the other issue is basically fake data. And I think, I'm from the States, and those of you from the States, you probably hear it all the time, fake news, fake data. And actually recently in New York Times, there's an article that was, that talks about fake followers. It was a huge article, and it was really funny. When I actually read that article, I was like, people in China, we know this. In China, you could buy fake fans from Taobao. You could buy it for pennies. So when I read that, I was like, oh, wow. But it opened up a lot of people's eyes. It got their attention. So fake data is a huge issue that's basically affected the whole digital ecosystem in terms of like a lot of these followers, KOLs, they have 10 million followers, but how many of them are real and how many of them are active? So for advertisers, one of the huge issue is fake data. So recently, actually last summer, I spoke to some of the big, we work very closely with all the big 4As, and I spoke to actually the CEO of WPP's group at Programmatic. And I was talking to her, I was like, hey, what are some of the challenges? We're, talking to her about actually adding blockchain. And she told me the number one issue for advertisers the last 2 years is fake data. She said, Miranda, my client, my advertisers, they don't even care now about precision marketing. I don't even care when we're talking to the right people. Are these real people? And I was like, she's like, that is the number one issue that advertisers face. It's like when they're spending those ad dollars, when they're buying big KOLs, when they're spending ad dollars, are those real people who's actually looking at the ads? They don't even, that is their number one concern.
So in summary, there are two big things. One is who controls the data relative to the consumer, and two, what's fake and what's not fake. And that's plaguing the entire social media ecosystem.
And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, fake news. So if you think about it, we have a perfect storm now where data is a huge crisis in terms of who owns the data, fake data, and also fake news. So if you look at this picture right here, you can see that black box. So you can see that black box is what we call that fake data, that crisis. And how it affects advertisers, affects consumers, it affects influencers. It basically affects the whole marketing digital ecosystem in terms of, for consumers. We don't know, what we're looking at. Is it real? Is it fake? For advertisers, they're spending all this money. And they're like, are these people even real? Are these robots? And then for influencers, their issue is basically, they create these great content. Who owns this content? Who owns that IP? Who owns that copyright? So as you can see, there's a huge issue with this fake data situation. It's actually affecting the whole ecosystem. So our goal here is how do we turn that black box and turn it and make it white again and provide transparency and trust in terms of this whole digital ecosystem. And the way, and basically this is where blockchain comes in. So by using blockchain, we could basically turn the situation of fake data and provide transparency and trust for advertisers. For influencers, we provide copyright IP protection. And then for people like us, when we're using Facebook, instead of actually, sharing all that personal information about us and giving it to third parties, where they basically take our data and they control it, and even worse, they don't really even, have the proper security. You read about, Yahoo, you read about, Target, you read about Equifax. Basically, giving that data, that profile data, back to the owner and empowering every person with their own data is where blockchain comes in. How we turn that black box into white. So our solution is basically a new way for social media or blockchain that empowers every person with their own data. So as you can see in this graph, is basically where we actually incorporate blockchain. And by using blockchain, our goal is to basically capture every action on that blockchain. So when a person actually, signs on, when they sign on, we basically reward them for signing up. And then when they actually bind their social media accounts, we reward them. We also reward them when they actually invite their friends. And then every action, when they either share content, when they read a content, when they create a content, it's all captured on the blockchain. So by doing that, we basically create a system of turning that, that whole data crisis, that perfect storm, and basically provide transparency for the advertiser. So now when they're spending that dollar, they know that basically, hey, these people are real. And then for the user, they know that basically when they actually use this new wave of social media, they know that, hey, this data belongs to them. They have that power to control their profile data. And to actually say, hey, do I want to share that data? If I want to share that data, I should get rewarded. And if I don't want to share that, hey, that's my privilege, that's my privacy. And then in terms of the consumer, we basically provide that a sense of trust in terms of this whole ecosystem.
Just a quick question. Does everyone here know what blockchain is and how it works? Who's familiar with blockchain? Okay, semi-familiar. So just quickly overview, blockchain is the process of taking validated data and distributing it across lots of servers everywhere in the world. So if for whatever reason, any data that is put in there, you can't really change it because it's in too many places at once. That is the core of blockchain. It's a distributed ledger system. And then cryptocurrency, who's heard of Bitcoin? I mean, everyone's heard of Bitcoin now.
Yeah.
Why is that possible? Why is cryptocurrency possible? Cryptocurrency becomes possible because if you take any piece of data and distribute it over lots of ledgers, then you automatically have complete trust because it's almost impossible, well, no, it's been impossible, no one's broken it, to change any data because there are too many places where the same data exists. So our whole concept is to take the concept of blockchain and apply it to social data.
So if you look at this diagram, so you have, if you think of Robin A, it's a marketplace. On one side, we have advertisers. The other side, we have media. And these media are people. And people meaning basically people like you and I, people like influencers, people like Wahoo, people like KOLs. So what Robin A does is using big data AI, we help the brands find the best people. Either they're big KOLs, they're Wahoos, or they're consumers. So the issue, like I mentioned earlier, is about the fake data. So now, using blockchain, we can basically provide that sense of trust and transparency where every person, when they actually sign up, they can claim their profile. And they can actually, we capture every of their action on the blockchain. So when we actually recommend these influencers to the brands, you have a sense of trust and transparency. So if you think about it, it's like a credit score. It's like a credit score where basically when a person actually signs on and they actually bind all their social media accounts, this is my account Facebook, this is my account LinkedIn, this is my account Twitter, the more social profiles I actually bind to it, the higher my score. Similarly, if I also invite all my friends onto this, and if they actually also blockchain their profile, then I have a sense of confidence that these are real people. So for example, I gave you an example earlier. Like in China, we have a lot of these influencers that have 10 million followers. But if you were to actually ask them to actually blockchain, like how many of those 10 million people are real? And I actually talked to a lot of brands about this. They'll say, we talked to a lot of these influencers. They have 10 million, but we actually do a campaign with them. The engagement is so little. How could someone have 10 million, followers, yet the engagement is like minute? So by doing a blockchain, now advertisers can basically have a sense of confidence that these people that they're actually, paying for, they know like how many of their followers are real people. Similarly, they also know like these people, they're who they are, because like if you think about it, we all have different identities. Like maybe on Facebook, you see me as Miranda Tan. Then by LinkedIn, you see me as Miranda. Then maybe by Twitter, you see me as as Big M. So what we do now is basically when every person actually signs on, they can bind their social account. So we know this person is them on Facebook, this is them on LinkedIn, this is them on Twitter, this is them on Weibo, and you create that profile of that person. And every action, when they read something, when they share something, when they create something, it's also captured. So blockchain gives that person that IP and copyright protection that's actually so important, it's missing. So I gotta speed this thing up, so I will. So basically, Robin 8, we're actually built on Quantum, and Quantum is a smart contract. And about Robin 8, we've been around for about 3 years. We're based in New York, Shanghai, and we've worked with about 5,000 campaigns to do some of the clients. And also,
quickly on the 5,000 campaigns, one reason we came to blockchain is because we use machine learning. So one thing advertisers always ask is, how do I even believe these numbers you're sharing with us? And so we use machine learning to determine the difference between, we would say, we know these people are real, we think these people are real, and we know these people are fake. And so we actually were ahead of many other companies, agencies, who only guessed. And it was in the interest of the buyer or the agency to believe the guess, and it was interest, and the brand went along with it. and, until there were some big problems with a couple major brands where it turned out not to be true. So then they said, well, your machine learning is good, but can you do better? Is there a way to really drive that fake down? Not only will you guess who they are, but you know who they are, who these people are. And that's where blockchain got introduced.
Okay, so before I go, so this is our team. We have a team of people, basically we have a chief scientist who's Russian, has a PhD in NLP. We have Barry, who also has a PhD in AI. We have Hassan, who has over 20 years of experience in digital, and also my background. So we have a pretty extensive team, and then we also have a team of advisors who are basically from the 4As, also from blockchain. And thank you very much.